just announced plans to appeal a San Francisco judge's decision ordering the continuation of the DACA program, a single unelected federal judge suddenly in charge of the entire country's immigration policy somehow. DOJ is fighting that. Meanwhile, though, we have new and fascinating stats tonight on immigration, both legal and illegal, and how it intersects with crime in America, as it often does. According to federal numbers released today, America's terror threat is clearly, among other things, an immigration issue. Of the 549 people convicted of terror offenses between 9/11 and the end of 2016, fully 73% were immigrants. Many of them entered this country through chain migration and the diversity lottery, both of which allow immigrants here without regard for their skills or how well they would integrate into American society. And clearly, many are not integrating. The DOJ estimates that more than 20 people in this country are murdered every year in honor killings, almost always by family members who see them as, quote, too westernized. About 1,500 are put into forced marriages in this country annually. Between 2003 and 2009, immigrants to the United States committed about 70,000 sex crimes. None of these facts require we shut down immigration. No one's arguing that. But they do demand an honest discussion, not dismissive accusations of bigotry every time somebody raises the subject. You've heard the response 1,000 times. Shut up, dumb American. Illegal aliens are more law-abiding than you are and way more impressive, and some fake study proves that. Well, not so fast. A new report released by John Lott of the Crime Prevention Research Center takes a close look at how illegal immigration affected crime in one state, Arizona. And the numbers are stark. In the state of Arizona, illegal immigrants are more than 2.5 times more likely to commit murder as U.S. citizens are. They're almost 3 times as likely to commit manslaughter, far more likely to be convicted of a sex crime against children, as well as armed robbery. Convicted illegal immigrants, 45% more likely to be gang members. Overall, young illegal immigrants break the law, and not just immigration law, the rest of the laws, at twice the rate of American citizens. So for at least one state, we know that illegal immigration is directly linked to higher crime rates. These numbers deserve honest discussion in the halls of power, not shrieks of bigotry and angry declarations that all immigrants are future Medal of Honor recipients. The fact that elites don't want to have that conversation says everything about what their real priorities are, and you're not on the list of priorities, trust me. Attorney General Jeff Sessions oversaw the release of the DOJ terrorism report, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for coming on.
Good to be with you.
So given these numbers, it does give new urgency, I think, to the immigration negotiations going on right now in Washington. You were involved in a number of efforts, I think in 06, 07, 13, to scuttle attempts at amnesty. And during that time, I remember you saying the Washington establishment supports any kind of border enforcement as long as it doesn't work. What did you mean by that?
That's exactly correct. Anytime a proposal like a wall or to fix this idea that you can claim you're afraid to go home and you get to stay in the United States, or you have problems where we provide subsidies to people who come illegally, the more you subsidize it, the more you get of something. These kind of failed policies are just never going to work, and the American people don't believe in it, and we've been trying to reform it, and every time you come up with a reform that works, gets blocked. And so President Trump has said, we have immigration, we want immigration, but we want to vet these people. We want to know who they are and make sure they're going to be productive people, people who will flourish in America, who are going to not be terrorists, not be criminals, and that's exactly correct for America. It's just unbelievable to me that we have the resistance we're having today to the reforms that are on the verge. We are close to having reforms that will actually work today.
And that voters voted for, by the way, in 2016.
The big issue in this election, Trump took it directly to the American people. It was a huge factor in his victory, yet the same crowd that fought for the amnesty before is still trying to scuttle good reforms today.
So apparently, here are features of the proposal we're now looking at. It would fund just about 10% of the proposed border wall, about 70 miles out of 2,000. No enforcement, basically. You can't deport anybody. It would expand chain migration. Dreamers could bring their relatives. It makes a diversity lottery more low-skilled. It doesn't seem like it's moving in the right direction.
Totally unjustifiable. That cannot be That is not a proposal that has any prospect of success. They need to look at the proposal that House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Goodlatte has proposed. That will work. It will end the illegality, make a tremendous progress toward ending illegality, and make the system work better. That's what the American people want. And the objectors, the sanctuary cities, the New Jersey policy you just talked about, those are policies that favor illegality. They subsidize illegality. They encourage illegality. American people are sick of that. It's time to end it. The choice is clear, and it's going to be even clearer this year. We're going to have some votes in Congress. People need to be held to account. Are you going to fix this system, create a system that protects America? We know that, as you said, 73% of the people who've been arrested for terrorism came here, were born abroad. So if they had been properly screened and rejected, we wouldn't have had these attacks in our country.
So someone I spoke to with direct knowledge said that in his meeting with the president on immigration, Lindsey Graham summed up his closing argument by reciting Emma Lazarus's poem from the Statue of Liberty. Not really a case that you'd expect Republicans to be making. Why aren't there more articulate Republican members of the Congress making the case that you just made?
Well, I wish there were. Actually, I think people need to get focused on this. We are not against immigration. The president is not against immigration. What the American people want, have a right to, and what's good for America is a lawful system of immigration. And when we admit people to our country, we should be like Canada. We should evaluate them and make sure they're going to be lawful, they're not threats to us, they have the education and skills level to prosper in America. That's good for them and good for America. What good does it do to bring in somebody who's illiterate in their own country, has no skills, and is going to struggle in our country and not be successful? That is not what a good nation should do, and we need to get away from it. A good debate needs to be happening this year. The president is right on the lottery. That's ridiculous. How absurd is that for a policy for a great nation? We need to tighten up on our admission of people from dangerous areas of the globe where we can't vet, where we have high numbers of terrorists that live in those areas. We should certainly be more careful and limit that kind of immigration.
Mr. Attorney General, when you left the Senate, it lost maybe its best voice on this. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Well, Governor Jerry Brown of California officially made his state a sanctuary for illegal aliens today. That did not stop illegal immigrants there, activists, from blocking intersections and shutting down traffic on the west side of Los Angeles. An illegal immigrant advocate is here to tell us why it's a good thing to do things like that. Stay tuned. Well, if you read the New York Times regularly, you know for a fact that illegal immigrant dreamers are always doctors, engineers, valedictorians, Eagle Scouts, and Navy SEALs. Well, it turns out some of them are actually unemployed protesters who like to block intersections and snarl traffic, like today. Take a look.
Right now we see for blocks the backup of traffic being built up on Wilshire, right?
Let them go! Let them go! Let them go!
That took place, strangely enough, on the very same day that Governor Jerry Brown of California made his state a sanctuary officially from federal immigration law. Cesar Vargas is the first illegal immigrant lawyer in the state of New York, and he joins us tonight. Cesar, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So this makes, I gotta say, I think normal people a lot less sympathetic to so-called dreamers. The idea that you're in a country illegally and you're standing in the middle of an intersection preventing citizens from getting to work. You're making basically violent demands in public when you're not even a citizen. I mean, do you see why maybe this is a counterproductive strategy and kind of offensive?
Well, regardless of whether you agree with the protest or not, they have a constitutional right to express their opinion. But to the point about...
No, actually, wait, stop. Stop with this. I mean, you're a lawyer. They don't have a constitutional right to block me from getting to work in the middle of a public street. I'm sorry, they don't.
You may disagree with it, but again, this is about actually not...
It's not disagreeing with it. I'm giving you the fact. You don't have a constitutional right to stand in the middle of the street and prevent traffic from going.
Absolutely, you do. This is about making sure that, and again,
then why were they arrested? Oh, I thought you were a lawyer.
Well, absolutely. Obviously they're doing the civil disobedience, and obviously they're expressing. That's why they're being arrested, because obviously they're enforcing the law. But again,
okay, so they don't have a wait. I mean, just wait. Hold on. I wouldn't stop you on this small point if you weren't an attorney, the first illegal alien attorney in New York. But just to be clear, you don't have a constitutional right to block traffic. You have a constitutional right as a citizen to express your views. It's protected by the First Amendment, thank God. But you don't have a constitutional right to get in people's way on a public street. Period. So I guess my question is, if I try this in Mexico or Venezuela, Honduras, Nicaragua, China, name a country, that would be insane. If I showed up in someone else's country and said, I have a right to influence your political system, and say, you're not even a citizen, buzz off. I'm blocking traffic now until you pay attention to me. Like, no one will put up with that except us, right?
Well, Tucker, regardless of whether you agree with it or not, they have a constitutional right to express their freedom to speak any opinion, and obviously they're engaged in civil disobedience, and at the end, they're getting arrested. And regardless, the Constitution protects them whether or not they have immigration status. So let's stick to the point on this.
Look, it doesn't protect their right to keep me from getting to work or getting home to see my kids. It's annoying, it's illegal, it's indefensible, probably not worth you defending it. But look, again, by definition, non-citizens do not have a right to influence our legislative system. Only citizens have that right. That's the difference between a citizen and a non-citizen, and you're trying to erase it. And you can see why American citizens might resent that, can't you?
Well, you're wrong, Tucker. U.S. citizens have the right to vote. Absolutely, they have the right to actually cast a ballot. But every person has the right to voice their opinion in this country. That's what makes this country great. The U.S. Constitution does not say, hey, the First Amendment applies only to U.S. citizens. Am I correct? The Second Amendment does not apply to only U.S.
Washington
citizens.
is like basically paralyzed over concerns of foreign interference in our last campaign by the government of Russia right now.
Absolutely.
And the reason people are upset about it,
influence with the president.
The reason people are upset is because Russians are not Americans. They're not American citizens. They don't get to influence who runs this country, what laws we have, how we live. Only Americans get to do that. Why is this different? I don't understand.
Well, on one hand, we had the Russian government colluding with many of the Trump administration and his campaign. That's one story. And on this hand, we have young people. We have people who are expressing their views on a specific issue for certain rights. And that is what we need to have at hand.
But why isn't Russia doing the same thing? You just have, look, Russians have a First Amendment right, according to you, I guess, to block my way home after work. But
well, don't they have the same on the way home? That's why this protester got arrested. And I think, but they do have the right
thank you for finally admitting that. No, but look, the point is the same. That if you're not an American citizen, you don't get to shape, influence my laws. You don't get to choose my leaders. You don't get to run my country. Only Americans do. That's why there's a difference between citizens and non-citizens. And once again, you're trying to erase that difference. There's no other country in the world that will put up with this kind of nonsense, but we're too nice, and therefore we do. Do you see my point?
This is why the United States is a very special place, because even though U.S. citizens have the right to vote, even though they have everything, we have the right to, many people, to express their views, to be protected against unreasonable search and seizures, and we have certain constitutional rights that it applies to everyone, and that's fundamental.
Are you a citizen, by the way, Caesar?
I am not. But I do hold the Constitution that applies to everyone. So when you say we, it's
not really we. You're not a citizen of this country.
I am an American.
You seem like a nice guy and everything.
Story.
No, but you're not an American. I mean, there's a legal definition here. I'm not attacking you personally.
What is the legal definition for being an American?
The legal definition is citizenship. That's what the definition is. It's really simple.
No, absolutely.
Are you a citizen? Can you vote in our elections, or can't you?
I cannot vote in the elections, but I can voice my opinion as an American. And I am going to be an American pretty soon, because I'm going to continue to advocate and to to represent my community and to demand, just as many Americans have demanded
you're in someone else's
generation.
country, and you get, again, I'm not attacking you personally.
Oh, of course.
I just think the distinction is a meaningful one.
We want to be very clear of what it means to be an American. Being American does not mean a piece of paper. Being American is about holding certain values, about freedom, about liberty.
You actually don't hold those values. It's about believing in the rule of law, and you don't. So actually, you just invalidated your claim to Americanness as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Cesar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tucker.